most of you are familiar with Ovarian Cancer Canada, but for those who are not, this biennial research conference that's taking place right now is a very important piece of the work that we support and very important to our mission. As most of you know, our mission includes, 3 pillars: providing support for women and their families, raising awareness, and providing educational programs, and as well funding research. And Barbara, I quote her all the time on this. She probably regrets she ever said it to me, but she says, Elisabeth, all these things are important, but remember, research is the one that will overcome the disease. So we never want to lose the important focus on that. And just to give you a little bit of background, Barbara became the, so this is her pre-introduction, and there'll be an introduction right before she speaks, but Barbara accepted the position of the Corinna Boyer Chair in Ovarian Cancer Research in 2000. And at that time, it was her vision to create an opportunity, a meeting that would bring together all the researchers in Canada, which at that time you could practically count on a hand, to talk about the research they were doing and to create an environment that would strengthen and promote more research in the country. And certainly this, now we're at the 8th conference, has done that. It provides an opportunity for multidisciplinary experts. So not just pure science, clinical as well, all manner of research and treatment that is being done in ovarian cancer in Canada, to come together, to build new partnerships, to find new ways to collaborate. And very importantly for us, it also includes trainees who come with the people that they work with in the labs, and they've had the opportunity to participate. Imagine sitting for 2 days in a room where the best minds in the country are here to discuss the problems. And so we believe we're making an investment in the future by being the platinum sponsor of this meeting. It's really important for us. And it fits the guiding principles that we have for our research: to promote and strengthen research activities, to foster the development of partnerships, promote new researchers coming into the field, and really to bring all of those working in the field together to make what we do stronger and more, have better results. I just want to talk about a couple of our research programs that you may not know of. I know some of you will, but a couple of our huge successes that we're very proud of. So one of the things that after we set up the chair in ovarian cancer research, we also invested in national tissue bank with sites in Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. And so here, tissue from ovarian cancer patients could be kept following their surgery, and it would be staged and be available for researchers internationally to use for the work that they were doing. And so we felt if you had a great idea and you couldn't get tissue to try it out, you couldn't go anywhere. So this was a very important piece, as well as attracting new researchers and engaging new young scientists into the field. This was a very strong piece. And you can see here the list of the discoveries that our tissue banks have been involved in. And the tissue from our banks were part of more than 400 research projects internationally, and right now in Canada, there's more than 50 research projects that are using this tissue. So I think you can see by those numbers how important that is. Another program that sort of spans our research and our education, but again, I think is a huge success story, is the Bruce Galloway Elective Grants. So in about the mid-2000s, the president of the Gynae Oncologists of Canada at the time, Barry Rosen, came and spoke to our board of directors and said, we are going to have a crisis in this country in healthcare providers. We know that women who have gynecologic cancer should receive treatment from a gynecologic oncologist. Their surgery should be done by that person. We're not going to have enough of them with the aging baby boomers. And by the end of 2020, we're going to be in a huge HR crisis. Well, what could a small charity do to fix that? And so we said, we're very concerned, but we don't know what we could do. Putting our heads together, a few months later, we came up with a program with the GOC that we hoped would increase the number of residents who would choose gynecologic oncology as a career. So we provided medical residents $1,500 as a travel grant, only $1,500, to study gynecologic oncology as an elective for 1 month anywhere in North America. And the gynae oncologists we partnered with said, we will make that the most exciting month of their entire medical career. And indeed, We've to date graduated 21 residents. 21 residents have received 31 training awards. Some of them ask for more than one, and if we have the funding available, we give it. And 17 so far have opted to join the specialty. So it was not a big investment, less than $50,000 since we started. And it's resulted in 17 doctors. Think of all the women's lives that they will touch. So we feel that's another big success story. You certainly can. You certainly can. And finally, our new partnership, well, it's 3 years old with the Cancer Research Society for Ovarian Cancer Research Grants. So Barbara actually, with the research committee, identified this opportunity for us, and the Cancer Research Society is about 75 years old. They only fund cancer research, but when you partner with them, they match the money that you give them. So imagine that. Every dollar is doubled. So when we give them $60,000, they fund the second year for $60,000. And so we put out a special call, and the first year, I'll just give you an example of how successful this has been, because it had an unintended effect that we're thrilled about. We gave them funds for 3 grants. So we gave them $180,000, which they were going to match in the second year. But because a special call went out for ovarian cancer research grants, they got more applications for ovarian cancer research grants than they'd ever had before, of a very high caliber. So after they funded the 3 that we supported, they gave 4 more from their own pot of money. That worked out to be 10% of the grants they funded that year. They funded 70 grants overall for cancer, and 10% of them, 7 were for ovarian cancer. That had never happened before. And that trend has continued. So again, I just want to reinforce that we really think hard about where we spend our money, try to leverage the impact that we can have with the dollars that donors give us to be the stewards of their money going forward. So just to, Kaylee touched on our support. We're really excited about Still By Your Side, our new recurrence guide that is just hot off the press. And I think many of you in the room have been involved in our Knowledge is Power, our Survivors Teaching Students program. But we're really pleased about all these things we do, but we knew that more needed to be done. Research is a real crisis. There haven't been treatment breakthroughs since 1990. Outcomes haven't changed in 50 years. And if you compare the money that is spent on ovarian cancer research nationally by all sources, in 2013, it was about $13.4 million compared with $74 million for breast cancer research. Now, I know more women get breast cancer, but the mortality rate for breast cancer is 14%. For ovarian cancer, it's 55%. There needs to be somehow an equaling here. A few years ago, when we were doing our strategic planning, about 2.5 years ago, we did a survey and we found that 91% of women in Canada said they needed to know more about ovarian cancer, people in Canada. They needed to know more about it. We knew something needed to change. We felt we were at a turning point with the statistics I mentioned, this kind of survey out there. What are we going to do? We really need to turn up the volume here. And so we have. So I think many of you probably know we're the new Ovarian Cancer Canada. And we set out to make some changes in the last 2 years. We wanted to take the conversation from the very small core of people who were very concerned about the disease because they're living with it, and their family and friends, to all women, to the general public in Canada. We wanted people in Canada to be talking about ovarian cancer like they were about other diseases. So a year and a half ago, we began working with Grey Advertising, a premier advertising company. And when they first pitched a proposal to us, we thought, jeepers, they're really big. We couldn't possibly do that. It turned out there was a family connection. And they said, we want this project. We will make this work for you. So that worked for us. And one of the first things they did was show us this grid. So if you see we have clinical, engaging, comfortable, taboo, they said ovarian cancer is way up here in the clinical and taboo side. You're talking about ovaries in a clinical way. You're talking about where they are and what they do. Whereas breast cancer, they're talking about boobs. And they're down here and comfortable and engaging, and everybody's talking about it. So you need to move ovarian cancer down to here. Well, that made a lot of sense, but how do we do it? We needed something new. We needed an idea that would make ovarian cancer part of the everyday conversation. And I'm sure many of you in the room, I hope most of you, found out what we did. We did lady balls. We market tested it. We looked at 3 or 4 different campaigns, and all of them were very moving. But some of them were so terribly sad that they almost immobilized you by their power. And we didn't want to be sad. We wanted to be hopeful. We wanted to get people a little bit mad about this disease when they found out how overlooked it had been. And so we went with lady balls. The board had 3 different board meetings to talk about it. They said, you better talk to our corporate sponsors. You better talk to some of our donors. And so many of the women that we were working with in our community were behind this 100%. They said, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do something different because too many people don't know about the disease. So we launched it in January, and it has been an enormous success. We've had over 60 million earned media impressions. So an earned media impression is the circulation of a program or a newspaper. 60 million. We've had individual donations go up. Our social media has gone crazy on Facebook, and we've had, what is very important to all of us, 118% increase in requests for our material from people who maybe thought, I don't know if I want to get involved in a group, or didn't know about us at all. They thought maybe we were a bit more approachable, and they wanted to be part of this movement. So leveraging this great action and this great awareness, we headed for Ottawa, as Kaylee said. And 2.5 weeks ago, we took 30 volunteers from across Canada to the Hill. Brand new venture for us. I didn't know very much about advocating, but we worked with a great company in Ottawa who helped us. There's Barbara in the front row, like John and Barbara there too. And we asked for $10 million more for research immediately in the country, not over 15 years, not over 30 years. Right now we need 10 million more. Barbara had worked with a group of researchers across the country, and they believed that if we had that investment right now, we could make a difference in the lives of women living right now with the disease, not in 30 years. And we also urged them to pass Bill S-201, which would deter genetic discrimination in Canada. Canada is the only G7 country that doesn't have this legislation. So this means that if you're a woman who thinks you might have a BRCA1 or 2 gene, and that could help choose improved treatments for you, it could help your family members make preventive choices about cancer, you might not go ahead and have the testing because your insurance could discriminate against you, your employer could discriminate against you, and we actually have documented stories of this happening. So Canada's a bit late on this, and we need to get this. And it was tabled in the House the day that we were on the Hill, so we were part of a press conference to support it. It's very important legislation. So we were really happy with the day. This woman is living in Ottawa. You can see right before the week before our thing, she had lady balls tattooed on her arm. On her other arm, she has a teal ribbon. But we couldn't believe how openly we were engaged in conversation with MPs, senators, policy advisors. There certainly was interest in hearing, and many, many shocked faces when we compared the investment of ovarian cancer with that of other diseases and talked about the outcome. So we hope that you'll get involved if you aren't already. Join the conversation. Come to a walk, be part of our Knowledge is Power, Survivors Teaching Students, write a letter to your MLA or your MP, and I really think we're on the cusp of a change for this disease in Canada, and I invite you to be all part of that with us.